Hi, and welcome to week 3. I'm excited to get you guys started on Between the World and Me and talking a little bit about Coates's concepts. It's not an easy book in some ways, and so I want to make sure you're very clear about some of the transitions he makes. He moves from memoir, talking about his own life in Baltimore, to slavery, to issues of racism, and then back into memoir, and then kind of parts of this is like a letter to his son. So we want to talk about it a little bit, and then in this lecture we're also going to talk a little bit about quoting, how to cite it and introduce it. So our agenda is to talk about Coates' concepts. We're going to also look at slavery and a little bit about housing discrimination and some of the videos that are on the shelf for this week. And then we're also going to be looking at, in more depth, the issues from Coates's book. So this idea of the American dream is the primary one that you're going to be writing about for the essay. And you know, a lot of times we view the American dream as this thing where, you know, people have an idealized view of America, and sometimes, you know, it's a huge motivator. They make big sacrifices to come here because of the ability to move upwardly, to get an education, to have a nice place to live. But the reality for a lot of people is that that's not attainable, both for immigrants but also people who are born and raised here. And what Coates wants to add to that is for us to look at how did America become so wealthy, and who sacrificed for that, and if so, you know, if we identify who those people are, particularly slaves, what responsibility do we have to them? Okay, so we'll be talking about this at length and spending some time kind of digging into it. He also talks about this idea here of the black body, and so I'm curious what you think about that when we get to that section. Unlike many people, he does not believe in religion or an afterlife, so he views the body as really holy and important, and the idea of the black body being expendable is one that he digs into and that we should look at. And then I'm going to ask you to think hard about everything you know about slavery. What were you taught and when? Did you just see it in movies? Did you read books about it? When did you study it? And we'll maybe talk about that a little bit online as well. So I've given you a couple resources here regarding slavery that you can look at. This is a really cool, if you click on it, this link from the Smithsonian of a variety of maps that show the migration patterns. But basically, during the time of slavery, 12.5 million people were enslaved and brought to the New World. Specifically from Africa, 388,000 were brought from North America proper. Now more were brought other places, South America and other places. At the end of the Civil War, there was 4 million slaves, and a lot of that came because of issues of rape, and so a lot of intermixing forcibly. And then now there's 42 million African Americans in the United States. So one of the things Coates wants us to think about is issues of who sacrificed for slavery and what did we gain. And one thing I will tell you is that he doesn't talk about this in the book, but if you look at these organizations, banks, railways, insurance companies, clothing magnates, and in some of our biggest, best colleges, they were built with money from gaining from either the buying and selling of slaves or from plantation work, from like harvesting cotton. The second way that this kind of taking advantage of continued for a long time was a housing discrimination. So before 1968, you could legally block anyone from that was African American from owning a particular home in a particular neighborhood. That was legal, and that's what the Housing Act ensured in 1968. I even have a friend that lives in the East Bay and recently bought a house, and she's Mexican, by the way, and so she goes there, and she was looking at the title of the house, and on the title it had an exclusion saying no Negro will live on this premise. So it hasn't been that long ago that these things have changed. There's also this issue of redlining, where you show discriminatory practices that block or keep at bay services or benefits from African Americans or people of color. Wells Fargo just recently had a $12 to $15 million suit against them for this type of practice with African Americans and Latin Americans regarding housing mortgages and business loans. And it was basically blocking them from those or charging them higher rates. One of the three talks and videos you're going to look at, there's going to be one of Coates, a longer one that I thought was good from Democracy Now! And there's a lot of videos of Coates online that you can look at. But there's also this one by Rich Benjamin called Whitopia. And I have the link here for you, but he goes to 3 different towns in America that are growing, that are predominantly white. And he kind of spends time there, like several months, to kind of get to know these people and to figure out what makes them tick and to see how they respond to him. And what he learns is really connected to Coates' idea of how whites segregate. And so I thought it was a helpful way to expand that section of the book. Throughout the book, you're going to see that Coates talks about different unarmed victims of color. And some of these are real famous. Some of them are people, one of them that was just that he knew. Tamir Rice, 12-year-old boy, was in Cleveland and was in a park, was playing with a toy gun, and cops got a call about an African American in a gun with a gun at a park near a community center, and they rolled up and within 2 minutes shot him and killed him. And we're going to watch the video later for another section and talk about it. Eric Garner is next. He this picture with him and his wife. He was selling cigarettes illegally and had been off and on for a long time. But he was choked to death on the street corner, and it was videotaped. His death was caught. The "I can't breathe" phrases were made popular based on him saying that repeatedly and them not letting go of his throat before he died. Trayvon Martin was 2012. He was killed not by a cop, but shot by a self-appointed kind of neighborhood watch person. And this person called the cops. The cops said to stay away, and he pursued and shot Trayvon and got away with it. And Trayvon was unarmed, had Skittles and iced tea in his pocket, was wearing a hoodie, and was just going back to where his dad was visiting a friend. John Crawford was in a Walmart and was purchasing a gun in a Walmart legally. They sell them at Walmart, and was walking through the aisles and was shot by police. Michael Brown, you've probably heard, it's the Ferguson case, which is mentioned a lot in the book. And then Prince Jones, which took place quite a while ago, but it had a huge impact on the author and on who's friends with him. And he goes into detail about his death, and also that he interviews his mom, Prince's mom. He's also one that had everything. He was financially wealthy, and his mom had become a radiologist and had worked hard, and it still didn't protect him. Similarly, you're going to see a neurosurgeon who's at the top of his field at UCLA, and what happened with him regarding the racism he was impacted by. So it kind of proves Coates's point in some way, anecdotally, that that there is no no protection, by wealth and by working hard. There was also this blackface on the left, this link. There's a blackface party at UCLA recently that caused some, got in the news, and was just very recent, and it's sort of shocking that this kind of stuff still happens. And on the right is very recent. A school outside of Phoenix, they had this pep rally, and all the cheerleaders and different people wore these t-shirts welcoming and congratulating the graduating class. And these girls, after that photo was taken, decided to get together and line up so that they could spell out the N-word, and thought it was funny. So it makes us think about this American dream a little bit and reconsider it, and to get a sense of, what does it really mean, and who can benefit, and is it really something to strive for if it means that that a group of people are never protected and never safe in America. So that we want to transition a little bit from that's pretty heavy stuff to this idea of introducing and citing quotes. So it's a little more technical, but just a couple review slides. One is this one, to remember that there's 3 ways to introduce quotes, either a phrase, a complete sentence, or to embed it into your own sentence. So the phrase type would be like Coates argues or believes or explains or suggests. Present tense verb there, a comma, and then a quote. I didn't have a real quote here, I just used the dots as like a sample. And then the page number and the punctuation, the period goes on the end. You could also do according to the author. Similarly, if you don't use Coates's name in the introduction to the quote, you want to put it in the parentheses. That's the part of the MLA format, along with the page number. There's also complete sentence introduction. If you do that, you want to use this colon at the end of the sentence, so it doesn't look like a drop quote. It's actually introducing the quote, so you put a colon here before your quote and the page number. And then finally, you can embed it into your sentence. So you can have your sentence and then put your quote within it. You can see this better in the slides that don't have a video with my face here. And then the page number. Finally, there's block quotes. So if you have, I kind of discourage you from doing this unless you're, can't help it. I know Coates's book is good, so there might be some that you really want to. But if you do this, there's 5 steps here you want to follow. So you want to read those over. And when you do those 5 steps, and again, it has to be 4 lines of quoted material when you're using the 1-inch quote, 1-inch margins. And when you have that, then go ahead and make it a block quote. And it will look like this. You will introduce it. You will have a colon at the end of the introduction. You will double indent from the left. You right indent is the same. You take off the quotation marks. You put the punctuation on the inside with the parentheses. This would be on your page double space still, just like this would be. And then you continue on the next line to come all the way back out so it lines up with the end of your previous paragraph when you are starting to analyze that quote. So that's the steps. Just make sure if you use a block quote that you follow those. No need to italicize or do anything funny with the quote itself. Just double indent from the left. Okay. If you have questions, let me know. I look forward to working with you and reading your essays. So take care.